On the right is Andrew Tate. I'm sure you've probably heard of him. For a brief moment, his Google searches were above Joe Biden's and Donald Trump's and stuff. It was crazy. Well, not too long ago, he went to jail in Romania for human trafficking. Now, I just so happened to put the legwork in to pull up the Romanian statutes in question, and I have copies of the Romanian law that we can look at in a little while if need be. But he gave his first public interview to BBC, or his first public interview, period, since he left to jail, and he gave it to BBC. The thing about this interview, I wanted to watch it, but the thing about it is BBC's doing him a favor by doing an interview with him. No one else has done any interviews with him. Have you noticed that since he got out of jail? No one's done a single thing with him. That's because they realize that he doesn't deserve any publicity or attention or interest. So BBC's doing him a massive favor by doing an interview with him. I think they kept their interview down to 10 minutes, and he was so unhappy with the interview that he released the whole uncut version that he filmed. It was like 38 minutes long or something like that. Now, we're not going to be able to finish it today. If you follow me over to my Telltale Unfiltered YouTube channel in the morning, Wednesdays and Thursdays, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time, I stream on my Unfiltered YouTube channel, and I will be finishing this. I'll talk more about it. Every part that I produce stands independently of the last. You don't have to see any of the others to understand what's happening, though this is the first part in this series. So without further ado, let's give this, interview with Andrew Tate and the BBC a watch, shall we? Oh, and while we watch, we are going to play some Breath of the Wild. It'll just be in the background. I'm sorry, Breath of the Wild 2. It'll be in the background. Shouldn't bother you too much. I'm just going around unlocking shrines, just reaching shrines and stuff like that. So, okay, let's listen to Andrew Tate. Start at the very beginning, shall we? It's controversial that BBC even gave him an interview. They honestly shouldn't have. That nobody should be giving this guy attention. But, all right, let's listen. Oh, God, dude. The audio is rough. It is... I'll tell you, I think I can fix it. I think I can clean it up if you guys give me just a second. Okay. Yeah, we're not giving him a view, apparently. I guess because his audio sucks, we're just going to clean up the audio, go from there. Let's give this a watch.
Andrew Tate. Hello. You've agreed to do an interview with the BBC today.
Yep.
The material is going to be published on television, on radio, online.
Perfect.
We are doing...
Notice how he said perfect there? He said perfect because he realizes that he needs them. He needs them a lot more than they need him. They don't need him, as a matter of fact. They're doing him a massive favor by platforming him in the first place. An extremely controversial favor that a lot of people honestly don't agree with, but I don't agree with it. I don't think that BBC should have. No, I'm not going to boycott him or something over it. I'm just saying it was a stupid decision for them to help Andrew Tate that way. That was dumb.
Doing an interview with you because you're facing some very serious allegations.
Correct.
Rape, human trafficking.
Yep.
And also because there's a great deal of concern about the things you say and the impacts that they have on young people, on women.
I don't think the concern's about the things I say. I think the concern is for the level of influence I have and the reach I have.
Okay, no. There are tons of people with tons of influence and reach. Joe Biden has tons of influence and reach. Nobody cares if he has that influence and reach or not. It's not about having influence and reach. See, this is him espousing the conspiracy theory that he's being canceled, not because he's a rapist, not because he's a human trafficker, according to the law, Romanian law at the very least, international law. Not because of any of that, but because he can't be controlled by the deep state. He's so transparently using conspiracy theories against people, and it's just disgusting, honestly.
I would argue that a lot of the things that are already out there inside of the legacy media and the Matrix as a whole are far more damaging than the things I say.
It's the concern about the influence.
So he says things that are already out there that have been said by legacy media are far more damaging than the things that I say. I simply disagree. I'm sorry. And either way, this is a whataboutism. I don't give a shit about them. I give a shit about you right now. We're talking about you and the damage you do on society. We're not talking about mainstream media or whatever. This is about you. Don't let Andrew Tate or anybody else ever do that little weaselly trick that he just tried there, where it's called whataboutism. Don't let him try that.
It's the concern about the influence you have being a harmful influence, but let's start with the allegations.
Not necessarily a harmful influence. The fact that I'm massively influential over the youth, and I understand that. But it's my influence as a whole which people are afraid of, not necessarily the thing that's.
Let's start with the allegations.
Yeah, right. So he's saying it's not the things that he says that's concerning to people. In fact, he doesn't think he says anything concerning. Nobody should even care. He's just talking, man, just like whatever. The thing that's concerning, apparently, is that he has any level of influence whatsoever. Just absurd, dude. This guy is playing off of conspiracy theories in a disgusting way. Simply disgusting. Anyway.
Allegations. Have you raped anybody?
Absolutely not.
Have you trafficked anybody?
Absolutely not.
Those are lies. According to things that Andrew Tate himself has said, I'm talking things that he posted on his website, he did. And she'll get to that in a minute. But, yeah, I'll just leave it at that. She'll get to it in a minute. She will get to the proof in just a minute.
Exploited any women for
Absolutely
money?
not.
But you have admitted using emotional manipulation to get women to work in the webcam industry.
Yes, he admitted to that on his website.
No. Firstly, let's begin. Let's start at the beginning. I'm facing charges. The first one you mentioned, the rape one's already been thrown out by a judge.
Already been thrown out by a judge. I don't know about that. So it's still exporting. Bigger videos take a while to export. I don't believe him that it's been thrown out by the judge. I don't know anything about that, but okay. Oh, and something I've learned about this guy, you can't trust a word out of his mouth. Not one word. He lies for a living, practically. He's like Donald Trump. Don't trust anything that he says. Nothing.
Secondly, it's very difficult for me to sit here and have a very frank and honest conversation with you while we're in the territory of Romania about a legal case that's going on within Romania.
It's hard to have an honest conversation about what's happening with my case. Okay, fair enough. I get it. Keep your mouth shut so you don't incriminate yourself. Sure.
To protect myself. I've agreed to do an interview with you, and I want to be as honest with you as possible. But I can't incriminate myself in any way, and I have to be very careful with what I talk about.
There are no charges yet.
Correct. There are no charges. There are no charges, and I've agreed to speak to you, but I have to be as honest and frank as I can, while also protecting myself and following my legal counsel.
Totally get that. 100%. I agree. That's fair.
Let's talk about what you've said yourself then. You have said on the website, for your original website for the Hustlers University, that you emotionally manipulated women to fall in love with you so that you could get them working in the sex industry for your financial gain.
That is what he said. Now, he's going to deny that in a second. That's what he actually said on his website. He typed those words out. He said, you want to be a top G like me, you have to emotionally manipulate women and get them to do sex work for you so that you can make the money from it. Seriously. That, by the way, that's human trafficking. What he described on his website. The thing that he described himself doing on his own website is human trafficking. And he removed that from his website, obviously, because that looks really, really bad for the defense. But nothing is ever completely removed from the internet now, is it? Thanks to the Wayback Machine, we have access to exactly what he said on his website. All we have to do is pull it up and look at it on the Wayback Machine, and you can do that. I don't feel like doing it right now, but there are plenty of screenshots. Plenty of people have done that already. Just go to any of those other places and look. In fact, maybe I will pull up a screenshot and put it up like when I do the edits for this and upload to my Telltale Unfiltered channel. Anyways, all right, let's keep listening.
As I said, I have to be very careful with what I say, but let's put it this way. No women are coming out against me and accusing me of doing it.
Yes, they are.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are. You can say no, they're not all you want, but it doesn't make it true. Yes, they are.
Who?
There's testimony from the current investigation.
The current investigation, which I cannot discuss, which I know intimately and you don't, I can tell you right now.
Well, he says, wow, I can't discuss it. He says, who? And she says, I thought you said you couldn't discuss it. He says, I can't discuss it. Then why are you asking us to discuss it if you feel like you can't discuss it? This is ridiculous. You see what he's doing here? He's trying this cheap little trick to get himself out of trouble, to get himself out of a situation where he might have to talk about his accusers and exactly what he did.
I'm facing charges. The first one you mentioned, the rape one's already thrown out by a judge. So
No, I already... Wait, was it 246? Where was I?
Investigation, which I cannot discuss, which I know intimately and you don't, I can tell you right now that the women who are in this case file, there are 2 American women who have been caught already admitting they're lying, and then
that's not true. What he just said there.
Nobody else is accusing me of anything.
To begin,
that's not true either. That's completely fabricated. And aside from that, let's look at the Romanian criminal code because I have it here. Okay, Romanian statutes on human trafficking, Romanian criminal code. Let's pull it up. Just take a quick gander here. This is the criminal code book for Romania. Trafficking in persons, trafficking in underage persons, that one doesn't count. Submission to forced or compulsory labor. Here we go, pimping. This is the statute right here. Article 213 under pimping. The causing or facilitation of the practice of prostitution or the obtaining of financial benefits from the practice of prostitution by one or more individuals shall be punishable by no less than 2 and no more than 7 years of imprisonment and ban on the exercise of certain rights. Now, Andrew Tate has personally described himself as a pimp. He has described his process in how he gets women to do what he wants them to do. And he uses what's called the lover boy method of human trafficking. Take them in as their boyfriend, like you care about them, lover boy, and then convince them to do what you want. And for that reason, consent and complaining parties have nothing to do with this situation. There doesn't have to be somebody accusing him of anything for him to be charged with a crime. In fact, there could be no accusers whatsoever, none. And he can still be charged with a crime because, as it says in the criminal code, here we go, the consent of an individual who is a victim of trafficking does not represent a justifying ground. So somebody can agree, that's from Article 210, trafficking in persons, and that is subsection 3, I think. Consent is not a part of the equation here, and here's why. There's something called undue influence. This is why I talk about this stuff, okay? Fundamentally, a cult is an abusive relationship between a person and an organization or a leadership or whatever. That's what a cult really is at its most basic. An abusive relationship between an adherent and the leader. So we have something called undue influence in the legal world and in the cult world. Undue influence basically means you agreed to something, you signed this contract, you got into this deal or whatever, without fully understanding the consequences of your actions, without being fully informed of what was going on. So somebody tells you that they don't have HIV. They've never had HIV. They've never, in fact, they're virgin, they say. I'm a virgin. I've never been with anybody in my life. And then you sleep with them, agree to do that. You consented in that moment. But then you find out they did have HIV, they lied, and they were very, very convincing. That's undue influence. You consented under a very specific set of circumstances. Technically, consent was provided, but it was withdrawn when you found out, these extenuating circumstances, basically, these mitigating factors. So we don't need a complaining witness to come forward and tell us, oh, I've been trafficked. It's irrelevant. If you were trafficking people, you were trafficking people. Whether they consented to being trafficked or not has no bearing on whether or not you trafficked them. That's the bottom line here. And that's what the Romanian criminal code is communicating. So I've read this entire thing. It's basically sections, it's chapter 7. Yeah, starts on Article 209 under slavery, and it goes all the way down, Article 210, 211, and it goes down, it stops at 214. 214 is exploitation of beggary, basically coercing somebody to stand out on a street corner and beg for money or ask for money to any degree at all and take that money from them. And you get an additional charge if that person is disabled mentally or otherwise. So anyways, yeah, that one is not relevant here. The guy committed heinous crimes. He committed sex trafficking. That's what he did. Now, you can stand there and claim you didn't all you want, but we can read the criminal statutes here. We know exactly what you did because you put it on your own damn website. Genius. Hey, just a little quick tip for you in the future, Andrew. If you're going to commit a crime, don't put it all over the fucking internet next time and brag about it and go on Piers Morgan and talk about how you did this thing and you think it's so cool that that you have all these girlfriends that you suckered into or that you lied into, like giving you their money and all that other garbage. Don't do that next time. Just a free legal pro tip for you. Don't admit to your crimes publicly on television. Just have that one for free. Anyways, that's the criminal code. His defense is there are no complaining witnesses. Boy, you're in bad shape if that's your defense. Now let's go back and continue listening. Oh, he says there are 2 American women who've been caught already admitting their lying. That's not true. That is a fabrication. There were 2 American women. You know that the guy, he basically convinced women to come to Romania and live with him in his mansion, and he would slowly but surely push their boundaries little by little and convince them more and more to do something that they wouldn't have done otherwise. That is coercion at best. At worst, it's coercion under false pretenses. It's undue influence at the very least. And there was this one girl who, as a matter of fact, from my understanding, realized what was happening. Andrew Tate took their passports. According to him, I'm describing what he said he did. Now, if he didn't, then he lied. So either he's lying now or he's lying then. But I'm just going to tell you what he said he did, okay? According to Andrew Tate, he says that he took their passports and their cell phones and stuff like that, and that made it more difficult for them to escape. And when when this one girl kind of realized what was happening to her, she snuck out and found a phone and called her old boyfriend from the United States and told him what was happening. Told him that she was being taken advantage of and she's like locked in this basement 24/7, right? The cops show up, raid his mansion, find a bunch of other women in this basement. Andrew Tate had all of their passports and the whole 9 yards. The guy is a human trafficker. It doesn't get clearer than that. So there were a couple of girls who were trying to charge him with a crime. These are the girls he's talking about here. They tried to charge him with a crime, and in text messages, they were going back and forth talking to each other, and they said, should we tell the police that we were drunk? They were drunk. That has no bearing on anything. Being drunk does not mean you consent to something. In fact, it means it's less likely that you consent to something. So they were asking if they should tell them, like, what happened about them being drunk and everything, like him getting them drunk and all that stuff. And since the police found that, that evidence on their phones, that they asked if they should tell them that, they decided not to pursue the matter because it's already difficult to, prosecute one of these crimes. This is in the UK. It's already difficult to prosecute one of these crimes in the first place. It's even more difficult when the person, when you have this kind of situation. You need somebody unimpeachable to be a witness against him, which he's made sure is very hard to find. So anyways, yeah, that's what he's talking about. The American women been caught lying. No, they weren't. They were discussing things between each other on their phones. They didn't lie to the police or anything like that. Okay, let's keep listening.
They're lying, and then nobody else is accusing me of anything.
To begin with, it's very common in cases like this that the alleged victims do not always see themselves as victims.
Which is why under Romanian criminal code, you don't need a victim to prosecute somebody for human trafficking. It's irrelevant. If you used undue influence, if you lied them into that situation, if you used the lover boy method to convince them to come work for you and make a ton of money for you, that's still a crime, whether you like that fact or not.
That's very interesting. It's actually extremely interesting because if I was a matrix-controlled organization, my goal was to slander somebody and try to...
Oh my God, dude. Matrix controlled. It's insufferable, honestly.
My goal was to slander somebody and try and destroy their name. You're telling me that they've chosen a crime, which one is heinous, of course, because it damages the person's credibility. And two, you're saying that even if everyone else involved, if you have 5 people, everyone's sitting there saying, no, nobody's hurt anybody. We like Andrew. We've all worked together. We're friends, etc.
That's not what everybody's saying.
No.
Let me...
And it doesn't matter if that's what they're saying or not. He committed a crime of human trafficking. We don't need complaining witnesses. We have them. We don't need them.
Read you some of the testimony from the current investigation.
Can I finish this?
One of the witnesses said...
Can I finish this?
You're not answering the question I asked you.
Like, Andrew Tate likes to pretend that he holds all the cards in every situation. And he probably feels that way because this is a woman that's interviewing him. But he doesn't. He holds none of the cards here. He is desperate for attention right now because he's not getting any from anybody. So the interviewer could push him pretty far, and he would take it. And she knows that, so she's going to push. It's actually pretty entertaining.
Answering the question
I am answering the question. You're saying the people who are involved in this, even if they say they're not victims, that they're still going to try and attack me and pretend they're victims.
Treated as victims by the case that's ongoing. And not all of them are saying that. One of the witnesses says...
We can't go into the case. The case is open and active.
So I don't know who's talking in the background. Is this like his lawyer or what's going on? I have no idea.
Well, let's just be clear that not all of the witnesses in the case are behaving in the way you describe. And even those that are, it doesn't bar them from being treated.
Right. It doesn't bar them from being treated like victims because they are victims, whether they acknowledge that fact or not. They were coerced and lied to through the lover boy method.
As victims by the prosecution by the case.
We have an open criminal investigation. I am absolutely not really sure I'll be found innocent. I know the case better than you. I know it intimately and you don't.
I don't know about that. The BBC knows an awful lot about the case. Andrew Tate may know private things, but we know all of the same public details as each other. Like, Andrew Tate knows just as many public details as the BBC reporter knows. And those public details are damning. Like, for example, the fact that he wrote, on his website that he's a pimp. In his book, he wrote it in his book. I was going to read his book, and I don't know. I'm still thinking about it. I might. We'll see. But, yeah, his book is trash, like complete trash. It really doesn't get worse than that. he talked about how awesome he is and how fantastic he is and how smart he is and he's the best in the room at all times and blah, 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 blah. It's just awful, dude. Anyway, I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you think we should, like, read his book or not. Like, on air, read the book. I've done that with a few books already on my Telltale Reads YouTube channel.
I've seen all the criminal files and the evidence against me, and you haven't. I know the truth of what happened, and you don't.
Oh, we've seen plenty of the evidence against you. And, yeah, I'm confident that I know that he engaged in... If he is to be believed, either he's lying now or he was lying then, he engaged in human trafficking. Like, when was he lying? Is he lying then or now?
And I'm telling you absolutely not, I've never hurt anybody, that the case that's been put against me is completely not fabricated. And I'm never going to be found guilty of anything. And it's very difficult for me to answer your in-depth questions because we're sitting here inside of the territory of Romania. I'm beholden to the Romanian legal system. And I'm not going to incriminate myself because you're trying to prod me.
I get that. That's okay. You know what? Fine. Tell her that. Say, I don't want to answer that question because it could, pertain to my trial or whatever, and I just don't I don't want to get into it. That's a perfectly reasonable thing to tell her. Truthfully. I would be totally okay with that. But he's not leaving it at that. He wants to make this out to be like this big thing where he's being persecuted because blah, 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 and he's innocent. He's always been innocent. And, God, it's just terrible. Dude, I'm not paying attention to the game. I mean, I finished the raft. What does he want from me here? Does he want me to put it in the water? Here. There, it's in the water. You going to go get it now? Go get the raft. I don't know what you're doing. All right, it's in the water. It's rafting time. There you go. Okay, yeah. Guess I had to talk to him. Anyway, let's, where does he, I don't even know where he wants to go. Did he want to go somewhere? Where are we headed? Oh, God, don't give me a big, long story. I have to catch up to Finley, swam on by herself. Okay, cool. We can do that. All right, let's keep listening.
You are wrong, and we're going to have to accept that for now and talk about something else.
Let me read you then what you have said about what you have done.
Sure.
You have said, my job was to meet a girl, go on a few dates, sleep with her, get her to fall in love with me to the point where she'd do anything I say, and then get her on webcam so we could become rich together.
Yep, that's the lover boy method, what he's describing there, the lover boy method of human trafficking. And it is the most evil thing I can think of to do something like that to somebody. You are just a disgusting human being if you do something like that, as he described himself doing.
I don't think that's what I personally said. I think that...
No, it is exactly what he said.
Exactly what
No,
he said.
that's no, I've never said that. That's something...
Yes, he did. It was on his website. Again, it's in the Wayback Machine. He thinks he can get away with, just flat out lying about this stuff. We have the Wayback Machine. Does he not know what that is?
that you found on the internet doesn't mean I've said it. And again, once again, if any female on the planet has a problem with me, I strongly recommend her to go to the police and try and pursue me for criminal charges.
Female. It's just so cringy, dude. I can't stand female. Anyway, look, like I said, there don't have to be complaining witnesses for you to be a human trafficker. Just like there don't have to be complaining witnesses for you to be like a murderer, for example. You know, people murder. That doesn't mean you need the person alive to testify against you or something. Like, that's absurd. People did not agree to certain things under certain conditions. But, you know, go ahead and propagandize, I suppose.
It's actually very interesting that me, one of the most famous people in the world, who's been vilified by the legacy media and placed it all over the internet, while everyone has attacked me from every single angle, while federal agencies from multiple countries have called over 2,000 women who know me, we stand here with 0 new accusations since my arrest. 0. If you took any famous...
Since his arrest? I mean, I guess so, but he's already got like 1 billion accusations against him. I don't understand what point he's trying to get at here, first of all. And second, is that even true? Is it even true that there are no new accusations? Maybe we don't know about those accusations. Maybe the government is keeping, tabs on it or keeping it quiet or whatever. And aside from that, there are plenty of accusations already. Like, we don't need new ones. In fact, we don't need any at all for him to be a human trafficker.
person, any man of substantial wealth, and you called 2,000 women who knew him, he'd find an ex-girlfriend is upset, somebody who wants money who's upset. They called 2,000 people who knew me and could not find a single woman to make a new complaint. The only complaints they have against me are the initial complaints, which we can prove are lies, and that's where it stands. So I'm not going to sit here and allow you to pretend that I'm some kind of evil predator, when actually I'd argue the fact that people who've been investigated to the level I've been investigated to, if you were to take the average man on the street and investigate his entire life for 14 months, call everyone who's ever known him, and vilify him in the media, and encourage people to come forward for money, and you're trying to contact every ex-girlfriend that's ever had.
Would come forward and accuse those people of rape and accuse those
I
people
think that you would have a lot more. I think you would have a lot more flack than I've got. I'm actually such a nice person that I've never had anyone come at.
Spoken to somebody since your arrest who says exactly those things. That with you, it's all manipulation. There's an ulterior.
Is this Sophie? Is this Sophie? Oh, Sophie, the fake name, no face, the story that was invented.
To please him and wanting him to.
So he's talking about one of the accusers. Sophie was, I think it's a fake name. Somebody who didn't want to be public about what happened. And that's totally understandable. I get it. I get that. But it makes it hard. Like, people have to privately analyze her credibility. And we just have to take the news's word for it until the criminal trial. But I don't even need to think about Sophie or her credibility or any of that, because I have his own words from his website. I don't need Sophie's testimony to know that you're a human trafficker. Simple as that.
Be happy that I was just kind of, yeah, okay, do whatever you want.
And what is she accused? Has she accused me of a crime, this imaginary Sophie?
She's making the point that there is.
Has she accused me of a crime?
Emotional or psychological manipulation.
I've asked you a question, and I've allowed you into my house.
I'm asking you a question.
Correct, but you're not the boss here, because I've allowed you into my house.
I'm asking you the question.
Correctly, and I'm telling you.
You get to decide the answers.
No, we're equal here. I've allowed you into my house. You don't come here with a position of authority. I'm doing you the favor as
No, she's doing you the favor. Much as he would like it to be the other way around, she's definitely doing him a massive favor right now by even giving him the time of day. Honestly, I don't think the BBC should have had anything to do with this dude. Leave it alone. Ignore him. Pretend he's, like, dead for all intents and purposes. He's a rapist. He is a propagandist and an abuser and a human trafficker. Nobody needs to give him attention anymore. BBC doesn't need to give him attention. You know who does need attention? Victims of cults. Or people trying to talk about victims of cults. People trying to expose cults. Why are they giving this guy the time of day? Honestly. I'm a little bit upset with the BBC for doing that. Like, I get, they're going to get decent ratings or whatever. Wow, that's really cool. It's kind of shitty that it's a little bit invalidating, right, to the people who have suffered at his hands, that they're doing such a thing.
Legacy media giving you relevance by speaking to you. And I'm telling you now, this Sophie, which the BBC has invented, which there's no face of, nobody knows who she is.
The BBC did not invent.
Of course not. And because you never invent anything. And she's not filed criminal charges against me. What are we talking about here?
We're talking about you doing human trafficking. Again, criminal charges being filed against you or accusations by women or whatever against you, irrelevant. We don't need any complaining witnesses for you to be a human trafficker.
What is she saying?
Talking about emotional manipulation. It's the sex industry for your financial gain.
Absolute garbage. She has not filed criminal. This person, if they exist, has not filed criminal charges against me. I welcome anybody who believes I've harmed them, male or female, any point in the past to file criminal charges against me. I'll fight them. I know who I am.
No need. We don't need to. We know what human trafficking is. And you know what? I did this earlier, but let's just read the statutes, the Romanian statutes. Let's do, starting from Chapter 7, Article 209 down to Article 213. 213, yeah. It's like a page. Slavery. This one may not apply. We'll see. Submitting of keeping an individual in a state of slavery, as well as the trafficking in slaves, shall be punishable by no less than 3 and no more than 10 years of imprisonment and a ban on the exercise of certain rights. This may actually apply. I'm not sure. Like I said, there were women that were found in the basement who had their passports taken away, which, by the way, is like your driver's license in Europe. You can't go anywhere or do anything without your passport. It's basically your driver's license. So he took their method of leaving him and kept it. Made them perform on screen for him so that he got all of his money. So I don't know. That may apply here. Article 210, trafficking in persons. This is the one they're really going after here. Number 1, recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring, or receipt of persons for exploitation purposes. By means of coercion, abduction, deception, or abuse of power. By taking advantage of the inability of a person to defend him or herself or to express his or her will of his or her blatant state of vulnerability. By giving and receiving payments or other benefits in exchange for the consent of an individual having authority over such person. So consent is not a factor here. Doesn't matter if these women said, okay, I agree. What matters is that he took advantage of them. Plain and simple. It shall be punishable by no less than 3 and no more than 10 years of imprisonment and a ban on the exercise of certain rights. Number 2, trafficking in persons perpetrated by a public servant while fulfilling his or her professional duties. Yeah, that doesn't apply here. Number 3, the consent of an individual who is a victim of trafficking does not represent a justifying ground. That's an important part. The consent of an individual is not justification. You can't say, well, show me where the complaining witnesses are, because we don't need one. All we need is the knowledge that you did this thing. And it's right there on your website, in your words. I mean, not anymore, of course. He took that down because it looked bad, but it was there. And the Wayback Machine remembers all. Article 211, trafficking in underage persons. Again, not really relevant here because they weren't underage to my knowledge. That may be one of the things that comes out. I guess we'll find out. Consent of an individual who's a victim of trafficking does not represent justifying ground once again. Submission to forced or compulsory labor. An act of compelling a person in cases other than the ones established by the legal provisions to work against his or her will or to compulsory labor shall be punishable by no less than 1 and no more than 3 years of imprisonment. Article 213 under pimping. Number 1, the causing or facilitation of the practice of prostitution or the obtaining of financial benefits from the practice of prostitution by 1 or more individuals shall be punishable by no less than 2, no more than 7 years of imprisonment, and a ban on the exercise of certain rights. So anyway, yeah, we read that earlier. Yeah, that's the bottom line. That's what it's really all about here. And he did that stuff by his own admission. I have video after video after video of this guy saying, just openly saying, yeah, I did this stuff. Yeah, I took advantage of these people, and I'm going to teach you how to do it too, if you pay me like $50 a month. And while I'm at it, I will give you some special, I don't know, some crypto BS or whatever it is. I don't even know what Hustlers University did. I don't remember now. Anyway, yeah, it was all a scam all along. He's a scam artist. He was always a scam artist. Dude, I have no idea what this is. This is a gigantic spring? Okay. I'm not sure how I'm supposed to beat this. Is there a secret hidden underneath the spring? Am I gonna die? Please don't kill me. Anyway, yeah, let's keep listening to this dude.
I'll fight them. I know who I am. I know what I've done. And I know the truth. And I know that I'll be found innocent of this attack. The reason I'm being attacked is because of my massive influence, not because I've ever hurt anybody. And for you to sit here...
Just complete nonsense. He most definitely hurt people by his own admission, in his own words.
...and say that everybody around you is saying you're innocent, but that doesn't matter because the state will say they're victims and they're just going to grab everybody you know and call everybody victims, even if they say they're not, and try and put you in jail. You are describing a matrix attack. You're not describing human trafficking.
I'm describing women who are going to court to accuse you of rape and human trafficking.
We will see what women go. We will see what women go to court at the end of this trial.
It's irrelevant if women go to court or not. I don't even care. It does not have any bearing on whether or not he's guilty.
We'll see which women go.
Can I finish, please?
We'll see which women go to court.
I'm describing women who are going to court to accuse you of rape and human
Sophie hasn't gone to court. Sophie doesn't
and
exist.
I'm describing women who have spoken to the BBC at length
Sophie doesn't exist.
and other media organisations about what they say is emotional manipulation and coercion. And I'm quoting back to you your own words where you describe
They're not my words.
coercion.
They're words you
Yeah, no, they were his words. They were on his website. They were his words. Absolutely.
found. They're words you found on the internet, and Sophie doesn't exist.
On
So
your
let's move on to
website,
the next
in
subject.
your voice.
It's such a joke, dude, honestly.
Move on to the next subject.
No, I think I'll stick on this one for a minute. So there's other places in that same website where you say you get girls to fall in love with you and they do it because they love you, because they want to do what you say. Convincing women to take part in some kind of business arrangement doesn't work long term because they're emotional. You've got to get them to fall in love with you.
Once
That's
again,
coercion, that's emotional manipulation, that's abuse.
what you've found are clips from the internet, some text from the internet, and you're going to sit here and tell me that that's the reason I should.
Your
Some text from the internet that he put there. You said these things.
website, your
It's
words.
not my website.
Oh my, it's not my website, he says. Well, we have the Wayback Machine. It was, in fact, your website.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not. Check my website. Next.
He's such a scumbag, dude. I'm sorry. He's awful. You know my introduction to this guy? I don't know if you guys are even aware of who he is, but let me just show you my introduction. This is the first, like, TikTok I ever saw of the guy. Hang on, let me find it. Yeah, here it is. Oh, watch this. Tate orders food like a real G.
If you ever see a man who's talking about food, oh, I had this amazing steak at this one restaurant. This steak is so amazing. He's broke. He's a brokey. Because if the
He unironically says brokey. He uses the word brokey.
He's a brokey. Because if the steak was so amazing, he'd eat every day. And he'd eat every day to the point where he doesn't want to talk about it anymore. But he doesn't do that because he can't afford it.
Oh, my God.
You understand? So whenever you see anyone talking about bragging about the meal they cooked or this ingredient they got or that steak they had, just do, because people do that to me all the time. And I'm just sitting there going, you're poor. Interesting.
You ever consider the possibility that maybe he says that ingredient that they got? You ever consider maybe people just like to cook? They just enjoy it. It's fun to them. You know, I've said this before. I'm going to say it again. I have the ability. There's these things called crock bites, right? It's this white cheddar that is so good, it's obscene. It's almost immoral how good these things are, right? And they're not that expensive. They're like $8 a bag. That's pretty expensive, right? But I have enough money that I could afford to buy as many of these bad boys as I please. I could have an unlimited supply of crock bites if I wanted. You know why I don't? Because I understand moderation. I understand that if I eat the shit out of these crock bites, I'm not going to want them anymore. They're not going to be any good. So I slowly, carefully eat them without going overboard. That's called moderation, not being a brokey. The guy just doesn't seem to understand moderation. Like, the things that he says are so stupid, I thought it was a troll. I thought it was somebody pretending to be a moron until, I found out who he was and started, doing more reading on him and stuff and found that he really is this stupid. So, anyway, it's painful, dude.
broke. Yes, okay. Oh, you went on your birthday and had that steak. Oh, wow. Once a year. Broke talk. Brokies. Real G's. Every day. Minor. Ain't a thing.
Yeah, he just doesn't understand moderation. So, anyways, that's Andrew Tate for you. That was my introduction to him. You're welcome. That's bad, right? Tabithug, welcome. Owen, I'm here. Thank you for your opinions on the line. Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming. I appreciate that. Todd, is this how much a burger costs? Enjoy a burger. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I think that's $20, right? A burger usually, I would say a burger costs like $10, and then fries cost another like $5 or $6, and a drink and everything. It costs $20 for a meal, I would say. So yes, thank you so much. I appreciate that. That's awesome. Carolina, I guess. Thank you so much for the sticker. Let's see. Nerico, welcome. Woohoo. Thank you for being a member for 8 months. That's awesome. Let's see. Yours truly, number one pony. Welcome. I will finally be moved out now to look for a job. Oh, wow. That's a rough time. Good luck. I hope you make it through all that, because that's a total pain. I hated dealing with all of that last time I moved and everything. It was just a nightmare, dude. Ugh, God, it's terrible. So anyway, good luck. Hello, Telltale, YouTube Illuminati. We had to go underground because Greg Locke sent a curse to our team. We are pleased with your recent work and will be working with YouTube to boost your videos. Sincerely, them. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, Greg Locke loves talking about the YouTube Illuminati, who is secretly out to get him. You know, they're out to make a mess out of everything intentionally. The YouTube Illuminati. God, dude is such a joke. Such a joke, man. Anyway, thank you for the super chat there. Joshua Okoro Soko, I think. The man is probably going to have a heyday if he ever watched Chainsaw Man. Unfamiliar with the reference. Not sure what you're referring to there, but yeah. I assume, are you talking about like Andrew Tate? I think maybe you're talking about Tate. Anyway, thank you guys so much for the super chats. I really appreciate all of that. That is awesome. Let's keep listening to Tate, shall we? For another minute? Yeah, just another minute or two. And I'm going to finish it tomorrow morning on Unfiltered. If you missed it, if it's already beyond Wednesday morning, follow me over to Unfiltered anyways. It may be edited and re-uploaded. That's usually what I do. I edit them down and I upload the edits. So, yeah.
It's the website you've taken down, and I wonder why those comments have been taken down.
No website's been taken down. My website's the same. It's been the same for a very long time.
No, he changed his website. And we can look at the Wayback Machine and clearly see that. He changed his website. He made it less incriminating because he didn't want to, make it that obvious that he's a human trafficker. So, yeah. I mean, you can say that stuff all you want. Does not make it true.
Comments on this website, on the original website, have been taken down, and I wonder why.
You are accusing me, I'm guessing. What you're trying to say is you're accusing me, and you're trying to say that I'm guilty of the things I'm accused of, and I'm emotionally manipulated.
I'm saying that you have said you emotionally manipulated people here for your...
Yep. For his own financial gain. That's correct. On his website, he said that. And in video form, I have a ton of examples of it. In fact, it's on my on my YouTube channels. If you just want to look on my channels, just type in Andrew Tate in my search. It'll pop right up. All kinds of examples of him openly saying he emotionally manipulated people. He emotionally manipulated women to take the money that they had.
own financial gain.
No, absolutely not.
And I'm asking you about that.
Absolutely not is the answer. I look forward to the end of this trial. I look forward to clearing my name. I look forward to the BBC and the legacy media having to say not guilty and having to tell the truth.
Oh, this dude's going to sit in jail. I don't see any way out of this for him outside of bribes. That's the only way. There's way too much evidence against him for him to get out of it any other way but bribing the officials. For the record, the Romanian system is very, very corrupt, and that's why he moved there, according to him. He said, I moved to Romania because it's corrupt. So, I guess we'll see if that sticks or not.
Before, the only...
Sorry, let me step back. Listen again in its full context.
Forward to the end of this trial. I look forward to clearing my name. I look forward to the BBC and the legacy media having to say not guilty and having to tell the truth. As I've said before, the only other person who's been found, despite absolute rigorous, destructive levels of investigation and prodding into my life, is this imaginary Sophie by the BBC who doesn't exist. And if you were to find any single other man on earth and try and analyze his life forensically to the level they've done mine, you would find genuine damage to people. I don't hurt people.
No, he absolutely does. And again, there don't need to be victims involved, or there don't need to be complainants involved. People are victims if they were taken advantage of through undue influence.
It's not just...
Thousands of women have come out in my defense. Thousands of women have come out in my defense, and you've not mentioned that.
Doesn't matter if they came out in your defense or not. You're a human trafficker. Whether you admit to that or not, whether they complain about it or not, it's irrelevant. All of it is completely irrelevant. You're a human trafficker, in your words.
Thousands of women come out in my defense.
Because the problem is when women accuse you of serious crimes.
Okay,
and emotional
well,
manipulation.
let's agree that
That's
thousands
the
of women... Let's agree that
It's not the
thousands,
problem that some people say you haven't done it. It's a problem that some people say you have.
thousands of women come out in my defense, and as we stand right now, we have an open criminal investigation. People who were involved in the criminal investigation are saying we're not victims of anything. Andrew's fine. He's never hurt us. You're saying, no, I have the opposite to that. I have to counter that. I have someone called Sophie with no face, a fake name, who we've invented, and she's not.
Okay, this whole Sophie thing, it's irrelevant, and Sophie, as far as I can tell, is a real person, but he really wants to zero in on this, as if it's like the crux of the case. It's not. Sophie's existence is irrelevant. I don't care if Sophie exists or not. Like I said, I don't need a complaining witness to, like, determine that you've committed human trafficking, according to the statutes. In fact, that's in there specifically so that people can't say this right here, this exact thing. People were human trafficking others, and when, they were defending themselves in court, said, no complaining witnesses, what are you going to do? So they set the criminal code up in such a way that people could not just force, scare women into not complaining, or lie to them, or coerce them, or convince them that they really do love them, or whatever other thing. That's why it's set up that way.